Sharkansas, Women's Prison Massacre. Now, you'd think this movie would be full of y'alls and them eating grits and them saying, I'm going to talk at you a minute. Because that's what they do in the South. But it is not. Actually, only one person has a Southern accent in this movie. And instead of eating grits, they eat peaches and beans. Which I've never heard of anyone eating peaches and beans before. And my stepdad was from Arkansas. He ate a lot of grits. So, this movie starts out with explosions. The only thing better than starting out with explosions would be starting out with nudity or starting out with someone naked exploding. That would be fantastic too. And then these two guys trying to get a 4x4 through a swamp. Now, I have a 4x4 with I have a four-wheel drive vehicle. And I have never tried to drive it through a swamp. Mainly because, like these two idiots do, they get stuck. I knew I'd get stuck. I have drove it through snow, though. And I have failed to get stuck. I have slid a couple times, though. Then we meet our women who are in prison. And their prison outfit consists of a tank top and short shorts. Skin tight tank top and short shorts. And what looks like Ugg boots. So apparently the Arkansas state prison outfits for women are not very progressive. And they are ordered to dig up stumps. Now, I don't know why you send your women to dig up stumps. The men could dig up stumps, but they'd probably also fuck the stumps. So maybe that's why you sent the women. Because men pretty much fuck anything. Anything. A man would fuck a tree if he thought the tree was coming on to him. But the one woman gets cut by glass and convinces Mike, the one guard, that she'll make his day in holding if he lets her wash her arm off in the stream. Which then she gets eaten by one of the Sharkansas sharks. And then then the other guard, Carl, and the other girls think she escaped. And then we meet Honey, who stages a brilliant plan and takes over and stops the guard truck with the women in it and takes the guards' guns and frees the prisoners and takes the whole truck, and then they empty into a new truck and change clothes, at which point Mike escapes, but Honey does shoot him in the arm, at which point he goes down a sewer and gets ate by one of the sharks. There are a lot of eating of people that sharks by this movie. We also have a detective pair. The guy's name's Adam, and he's supposed to be 29. And the girl's name, I guess, is Boss, because we never learn her real name, so her name is just Boss now. Her parents decided she was going to be in charge at an early age, and they just named her Boss. And she's well in her older age. Because she at one point refers to Adam as Chin, which a reference so obscure, I don't even get it. But they're not really important. They're just doing cop stuff. We're going to focus on the girls. We then go to a cabin in the swamp, which has a hot tub. And then the next morning, Sarah gets ate by a shark. But this time the shark digs through land to eat her. So they bury her, and then we meet the professor and Marianne. Oh, sorry, I mean John. Now, I'm sure if we put a dark wig on him and a sundress on him, he might look a little like Don Wells. Who tell them that the sharks are from an underground river and are prehistoric sharks who will eat and devour anything alive. So they try to get to the truck, at least Honey does, and the sharks flatten off 4 tires of the van. But she survives. So then they notice a cave out back, and they come up with a plan. Well, this is after Carl and Michelle discover a ton of guns in the house and take back control. They came up with a plan and make a dummy covered in Carl's blood. They don't kill Carl for the blood. They just use a syringe. Carl is still alive. And they load it full of gunpowder that's in bullets. And Honey blows it up, killing several of the sharks, allowing them to run to the cave out back, in which John dies, being a hero. Poor John, he just had to be a hero. Now, remember, Honey is the only one with a southern accent. The professor has kind of a New York accent, and John has an accent that I can't quite place. But he died being a hero. So now they'll bury him according to his country's tradition. And since we're not sure where his country is, we'll just bury him and play bagpipes. Now, there was a little love story between Shannon and John. So Shannon's crying at this point. So they go into the cave. And they hear the sharks communicating with each other like whales. And they find a raft and they find a river under a cave that leads to daylight. Honey and Anita, Anita's Honey's girlfriend, and a complete psychopath, stay to watch the river, while Michelle, Shannon, Carl, the other guard that's still alive, and the professor go to get the raft. And the professor gets eaten. Which I don't know what the point of keeping the professor alive this long was. But he's eaten now. But he's shark food now anyways. So they get the raft. Carl goes to the other side and they pull the raft back. Michelle and Shannon go to the other side. But Carl left his gun, which Anita now has. Now I need to remind you, Anita is a psychopath. And they're pulling Anita and Honey and to them on the other side out of the cave. And Anita stands up and shoots Shannon. So Shannon is now dead. And she's happy. Because she said she was tired of living. So then Anita falls into the water and is eaten by a shark. And the raft is punctured, which we don't get to see, and Honey falls into the water. So just Michelle and Carl make it out. And Carl says, that's too bad, everybody died but him. And it's going to be impossible to identify the bodies, letting Michelle go so she can be with her son. And then our detectives show up, and they ask Carl if anyone else survived, and he said no. And then they ask Carl if he knows what they're up against, and he said yes. And then we see the sign, "Welcome to Sharkansas," which I don't know who spray painted an S and an H in front of Arkansas. I'm assuming the sharks did, but I'm sure they'd grown thumbs. I'm sure they grew thumbs in that underwater, in that underground cavern, just so they could use a spray paint can and spray paint an S and an H in front of Sharkansas. And then we see that Honey survived. She's crawling out of the water. And like the first mammal, she's grown feet. And that is the end of the movie. For those who care what the cops did, you have to watch the movie. I give this movie 15 out of 12 stars. Look it up. It's on Tubi. It is a great movie. Join me next week where we'll look at Kerwin White for the wrestling show, and for the movie where we'll be watching Return to Sleepaway Camp. Goodbye.